Hey guys, welcome to Relationship Stories with TaleTime. The first story is titled, I spent a year collecting evidence to expose my wife's cheating on our anniversary day. I exposed her in front of the entire family and our friends. I ruined her life. She ended up without a job and without family support, and I divorced her. The story starts like this. My name is David, and I'm a 35-year-old software engineer. I met my wife, Sarah, during our freshman year of college. We were both studying computer science and ended up in the same programming class. I was immediately drawn to her intelligence, wit, and beauty. We started dating shortly after and became inseparable. After graduation, we decided to take the next step and got married in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by our family and friends. It was the happiest day of my life. Fast forward 10 years, and we had built a life together. We bought a house in the suburbs, had stable careers, and were even talking about starting a family. I thought we had the perfect marriage. We rarely fought, had regular date nights, and always made time for each other despite our busy schedules. Sarah was my best friend, and I couldn't imagine my life without her. However, things started to change around our 9th anniversary. Sarah began working late more often, saying she had to put in extra hours for a big project. At first, I didn't think much of it. I trusted her completely and knew how dedicated she was to her job. But as the weeks went by, I noticed other changes in her behavior. She became more secretive with her phone, always keeping it face down or taking it with her everywhere she went. She also started dressing differently, buying new clothes and wearing more makeup than usual. One evening, I came home early from work and found Sarah in our bedroom, hurriedly ending a phone call. She seemed flustered and made up an excuse about talking to her sister. Something didn't feel right, but I brushed it off, not wanting to believe that my wife could be hiding something from me. As the months passed, the nagging feeling in the back of my mind grew stronger. Sarah's behavior became more erratic, and she started finding excuses to avoid spending time with me. She would come home late, smelling of unfamiliar cologne, and immediately jump in the shower. Our sex life had also dwindled to almost nothing, with Sarah always claiming to be too tired or not in the mood. I tried to talk to her about it, but she would get defensive and accuse me of being paranoid. She would say things like, "Don't you trust me?" Or "I can't believe you would even think that." I wanted to believe her, but the signs were becoming impossible to ignore. One night, while Sarah was in the shower, I noticed her phone buzzing with incoming messages. I knew it was wrong to invade her privacy, but my gut was telling me something was off. With shaking hands, I picked up her phone and saw a string of flirty texts from a name I didn't recognize. My heart sank as I read through the messages, realizing that my worst fears had come true. My wife was cheating on me. I felt like my world had shattered. I couldn't breathe, and my mind was racing with a million thoughts. How could she do this to me? To us? I loved her with every fiber of my being, and the thought of her betraying me was too much to bear. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling and trying to make sense of it all. I knew I needed to confront Sarah, but I also knew that I needed proof. I didn't want to accuse her without solid evidence, fearing she would just deny it and make me feel like I was going crazy. So, I made a decision. I was going to gather all the evidence I could and expose her cheating in a way she couldn't deny. I didn't know how long it would take or what I would find, but I knew I had to do it for my own sanity. The first sign that something was amiss came about 6 months before our 10th anniversary. Sarah had always been a creature of habit, coming home at the same time every evening and following a predictable routine. However, she suddenly started staying late at work more frequently, often not returning until well past dinner time. When I questioned her about it, she claimed that her team was working on a crucial project with a tight deadline. As a fellow programmer, I understood the demands of the job, so I didn't press the issue further. But then other changes in her behavior began to emerge. Sarah had never been particularly secretive with her phone, often leaving it lying around the house. Now, she kept it glued to her side, always face down or tucked away in her pocket. If I entered the room while she was on her phone, she would quickly end the conversation or switch to another app. It felt like she was hiding something from me, and the uneasy feeling in my stomach grew. One evening, while Sarah was in the shower, I heard her phone buzzing with incoming messages. I tried to ignore it, but my curiosity got the better of me. I glanced at the screen and saw a message preview from an unknown number. It read, "I can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing." My heart dropped, and I felt sick to my stomach. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but I knew I needed more proof. I decided to keep a closer eye on her phone and see if I could find any other incriminating evidence. Over the next few weeks, I started to notice other red flags. Sarah began dressing differently, wearing more form-fitting clothes and taking extra time to do her hair and makeup, even on days she was just going to work. She also started working out more frequently, something she had never shown much interest in before. While I wanted to be supportive of her desire to get in shape, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was doing it for someone else's benefit. One day, while Sarah was in the shower, I took the opportunity to look through her phone. I knew it was a violation of her privacy, but I couldn't stand the uncertainty any longer. As I scrolled through her messages, my worst fears were confirmed. There were dozens of flirty texts between her and a man named Mark, discussing their secret meetups and how much they enjoyed each other's company. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. My wife, the woman I had pledged my life to, was having an affair. I confronted Sarah that evening, showing her the messages I had found. At first, she tried to deny it, claiming that Mark was just a friend from work and that the messages were taken out of context. But as I pressed her further, her story began to unravel. She eventually admitted that she had been seeing Mark for a few months, but she insisted that it was just a physical relationship and that she still loved me. I was devastated. I couldn't believe that the woman I had built a life with could betray me so deeply. I felt angry, hurt, and utterly betrayed. I told Sarah that I needed some time to process everything and that I was going to stay with a friend for a few days. She begged me not to leave, promising that she would end things with Mark and that we could work through this together. But I couldn't stand to be around her, knowing what she had done. As I drove to my friend's house, my mind was reeling. I kept replaying the past few months in my head, trying to pinpoint all the signs I had missed. I felt like a fool for not seeing it sooner. But I also knew that I couldn't just let this go. I needed to know the full extent of Sarah's betrayal before I could even consider forgiving her. Over the next year, I became consumed with gathering evidence of Sarah's infidelity. I got into her email and social media accounts, searching for any incriminating messages or photos. I even hired a friend to follow her and document her meetups with Mark. It was a painful and exhausting process, but I was determined to uncover the truth. As the evidence piled up, I began to see the full scope of Sarah's deception. She had been lying to me for months, sneaking around behind my back and carrying on a full-blown affair. The more I discovered, the more my anger and resentment grew. I couldn't believe that the woman I had loved and trusted for so long could betray me so callously. But even as I gathered more proof of Sarah's infidelity, a part of me still held out hope that we could somehow salvage our marriage. I didn't want to throw away a decade of love and commitment over one mistake. So, I decided to confront Sarah again, this time with all the evidence I had collected. I hoped that by laying everything out on the table, we could have an honest conversation about our relationship and find a way to move forward. However, when I showed Sarah the emails, texts, and photos I had gathered, she became defensive and angry. She accused me of invading her privacy and not trusting her. She refused to take responsibility for her actions, instead blaming me for not being attentive enough or meeting her needs. It was clear that she had no intention of owning up to her mistakes or working to repair our marriage. That's when I realized that I couldn't continue living a lie. I deserved better than a partner who would lie, cheat, and gaslight me. I knew that I needed to take drastic action to protect myself and my future. And so, I began to plan my ultimate revenge, exposing Sarah's infidelity in front of our entire family and friend group on our 10th anniversary. It would be a painful and messy process, but I was determined to take back control of my life and show everyone the truth about the woman I had once loved. Determined to uncover the full extent of Sarah's betrayal, I knew I needed to be strategic and thorough in my investigation. I couldn't risk tipping her off or letting my emotions cloud my judgment. So, I decided to hire a private investigator named Jack to assist me in gathering evidence. Jack was a former police detective with years of experience in infidelity cases. He assured me that he would be discreet and efficient in his work, promising to provide me with concrete proof of Sarah's affair. We met in person to discuss the details of the case and develop a plan of action. The first step was to set up surveillance on Sarah's daily activities. Jack installed hidden cameras in our home and GPS trackers on her car, allowing us to monitor her movements and interactions. He also tapped her phone and email, giving us access to her communication with Mark and any other potential partners. As the weeks turned into months, the evidence began to pile up. Jack provided me with countless photos of Sarah and Mark meeting up at hotels, restaurants, and even our own home when I was away on business trips. He recorded their phone conversations, capturing intimate details of their relationship and Sarah's complete disregard for our marriage. It was painful to see and hear the evidence of my wife's betrayal, but I forced myself to confront the reality of the situation. I spent hours poring over the photos and recordings, trying to make sense of how she could throw away our life together for a fleeting affair. In addition to the surveillance, I also conducted my own investigation. I went through Sarah's credit card statements and bank records, looking for any unusual transactions or suspicious activity. I found numerous charges for expensive dinners, hotel rooms, and even a weekend getaway to a nearby resort. I also reached out to some of Sarah's coworkers and friends, trying to gather more information about her relationship with Mark. While most of them were reluctant to get involved, a few confirmed that they had noticed a change in Sarah's behavior and had suspicions about the nature of her relationship with Mark. As the months dragged on, the emotional toll of the investigation began to wear on me. I became consumed with anger, obsession, and a desire for revenge. I barely slept or ate, spending every waking moment thinking about Sarah's betrayal and how I could make her pay for what she had done. I started to withdraw from my own life, canceling plans with friends and family and neglecting my work responsibilities. I knew that I was spiraling, but I couldn't seem to stop myself. The only thing that mattered was gathering enough evidence to expose Sarah and make her suffer the consequences of her actions. Throughout the investigation, I kept a detailed log of all the evidence I had collected. I documented every photo, recording, and transaction, carefully organizing them into a comprehensive case file. I knew that I needed to be meticulous and thorough if I wanted to present a compelling case against Sarah. As the 1-year mark of the investigation approached, I began to plan my final move. I knew that our 10th anniversary was coming up, and I saw it as the perfect opportunity to confront Sarah and expose her affair in front of our entire family and friend group. I started to lay the groundwork for my plan, secretly inviting our loved ones to a special anniversary celebration. I told them that I had a big surprise planned for Sarah and that I wanted everyone to be there to witness it. Little did they know that the surprise would be the complete unraveling of our marriage. Meanwhile, I continued to play the role of the dutiful husband, pretending that everything was normal in our relationship. It was a difficult and painful charade to maintain, but I knew that I needed to keep up appearances until the right moment. As the anniversary approached, I began to feel a mix of excitement and dread. I knew that exposing Sarah's affair would be a turning point in my life, one that would likely result in the end of our marriage. But I also felt a sense of empowerment and liberation, knowing that I was finally taking control of my own narrative and refusing to be a victim any longer. In the final weeks leading up to the anniversary, I worked closely with Jack to finalize our case against Sarah. We reviewed all the evidence we had collected, ensuring that it was properly documented and organized. We also discussed the potential legal ramifications of exposing Sarah's affair, including the possibility of filing for divorce on grounds of infidelity. As the day of the anniversary celebration drew near, I could feel the tension and anticipation building inside me. I knew that I was about to unleash a bomb on my own life, but I also knew that it was necessary for my own healing and growth. I knew that I had to plan every detail carefully to ensure maximum impact. I wanted to expose Sarah's cheating in a way that she couldn't deny or escape from, and I wanted to do it in front of everyone we knew and loved. I decided that our anniversary party would be the perfect opportunity. Sarah had already been planning a big celebration for our 10th anniversary, inviting our family and friends to a fancy restaurant for a night of dinner and dancing. She had no idea that I was about to turn her own party against her. I contacted the restaurant owner and explained my situation. I told him that I needed a private room for the party and that I had a special presentation planned for my wife. He was hesitant at first, but when I explained the situation and showed him some of the evidence I had collected, he agreed to help me out. Next, I started inviting more people to the party. I reached out to Sarah's coworkers, including Mark, and told them that I had a special surprise planned for Sarah and that I wanted them to be there to celebrate with us. I also invited some of our mutual friends who I knew would be shocked and appalled by Sarah's behavior. As the guest list grew, I began to worry that Sarah might suspect something was up. But she was too busy with her own preparations for the party to notice anything out of the ordinary. She was excited about the celebration and kept gushing about how much she loved me and how happy she was to be married to me. It made me sick to my stomach to hear her lie so easily. Meanwhile, I was busy preparing my presentation. I had collected a mountain of evidence over the past year, including photos, videos, and audio recordings of Sarah's affair with Mark. I spent hours organizing everything into a coherent narrative, complete with timestamps and captions. I created a slideshow that started with happy photos of our wedding day and early years of marriage, then gradually transitioned into the evidence of Sarah's cheating. I included photos of her and Mark together, screenshots of their text messages and emails, and even a video of them kissing in a hotel room. I knew that the presentation would be shocking and painful for everyone involved, but I felt like it was necessary to expose the full extent of Sarah's betrayal. I wanted our family and friends to see the truth about who she really was and what she had done to me. As the day of the anniversary party approached, I could barely contain my nerves. I had been planning this moment for months, but now that it was finally here, I felt a mix of excitement and dread. I knew that exposing Sarah's cheating would be the end of our marriage, but I also knew that it was the only way forward for me. On the morning of the party, I woke up early and went over my plan one last time. I made sure that all of my evidence was organized and ready to go, and I practiced my speech in front of the mirror until I had it memorized. Sarah, on the other hand, was in a great mood. She spent the day getting her hair and makeup done and picking out the perfect dress for the occasion. She kept texting me throughout the day, telling me how much she loved me and how excited she was for the party. I played along, texting her back with loving messages and heart emojis. It made me feel sick to act like everything was normal, but I knew that I had to keep up the charade until the right moment. Finally, it was time for the party. I arrived at the restaurant early to set everything up. I made sure that the private room was ready, with a projector and screen set up for my presentation. I also made sure that the wait staff knew what was about to happen and were prepared for any potential fallout. As guests started to arrive, I greeted them with hugs and smiles, playing the role of the happy husband. Sarah arrived shortly after, looking stunning in a tight red dress. She greeted me with a kiss and whispered in my ear how much she loved me. I had to fight back the urge to push her away. We mingled with our guests for a while, making small talk and posing for photos. I could feel the anticipation building inside me as I waited for the right moment to strike. Finally, as the appetizers were being served, I stood up and clinked my glass to get everyone's attention. "Thank you all for coming tonight to celebrate our 10th anniversary," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "As you all know, Sarah and I have been together for a long time, and we've been through a lot together. But there's something that Sarah hasn't been honest about, and I think it's time for the truth to come out." I could see the confusion and concern on our guests' faces as I spoke. Sarah looked at me with a puzzled expression, clearly trying to figure out what I was talking about. I took a deep breath and continued. "For the past year, Sarah has been having an affair with a coworker named Mark. She has been lying to me, sneaking around behind my back, and betraying our marriage vows. And tonight, I have the evidence to prove it." With that, I turned on the projector and started my presentation. The room fell silent as the first slide appeared on the screen, showing a happy photo of Sarah and me on our wedding day. Then, the next slide appeared, showing a photo of Sarah and Mark together at a restaurant, their heads close together as they laughed and talked. I could hear gasps and murmurs from the audience as I went through the evidence, slide by slide. I showed photos of Sarah and Mark kissing, holding hands, and even in bed together. I played audio recordings of their phone conversations, where they talked about their love for each other and their plans to be together. Throughout the presentation, I kept my eyes on Sarah. At first, she looked shocked and angry, like she couldn't believe I would do this to her. But as the evidence mounted, her expression changed to one of shame and defeat. She knew that she had been caught, and there was no way out. As I reached the end of the presentation, I could see tears in some of our guests' eyes. Our parents looked devastated, and our friends looked shocked and betrayed. I knew that I had just blown up our entire world, but I also knew that it was the only way to move forward. I turned to Sarah and looked her in the eye. "I trusted you," I said, my voice breaking. "I loved you more than anything in this world, and you betrayed me in the worst possible way. I don't know how I can ever forgive you for what you've done." Sarah opened her mouth to speak, but I held up my hand to stop her. "I don't want to hear your excuses or your lies," I said. "I want you to know that I am filing for divorce, and I will make sure that everyone knows the truth about what you did. You will never hurt me again." With that, I walked out of the room, leaving Sarah to face the fallout of her actions. I knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but I also knew that I had taken the first step towards healing and moving on with my life. In the days following the anniversary party, the fallout from my revelation was swift and intense. Sarah tried desperately to do damage control, but it was too late. The evidence I had presented was undeniable, and the truth about her affair had spread like wildfire. The first consequence came just a few days later when Sarah was called into a meeting with her boss and the HR department at her company. They had received an anonymous tip about her affair with Mark, along with copies of some of the more incriminating photos and messages. Sarah tried to deny it at first, but when confronted with the evidence, she had no choice but to come clean. Her boss was furious. Not only had Sarah been engaging in an inappropriate relationship with a coworker, but she had also been using company resources to facilitate the affair. She had been sending emails and texts to Mark on her work phone and computer, and had even used the company credit card to pay for some of their clandestine meetings. In the end, Sarah was fired from her job. Her boss made it clear that her behavior was a violation of company policy and a breach of trust that could not be tolerated. Sarah left the office in tears, her once promising career in shambles. But that was just the beginning. As word of the affair continued to spread, Sarah's relationships with our family and friends began to crumble as well. Her parents were devastated by the news, and her father in particular was furious with her for betraying me and our marriage. He made it clear that he would not be supporting her through the divorce, and that she would have to face the consequences of her actions on her own. Sarah's sister was equally disgusted by her behavior. She had always looked up to Sarah as a role model, and the revelation of the affair shattered that illusion. She told Sarah that she wanted nothing to do with her, and that she would not be welcome at family gatherings or events. Even some of our mutual friends began to distance themselves from Sarah. They had always seen us as the perfect couple, and the news of the affair left them feeling betrayed and disillusioned. Many of them took my side in the split, offering me support and condolences while giving Sarah the cold shoulder. As for me, I threw myself into the divorce proceedings with a vengeance. I hired the best lawyer I could find and made it clear that I wanted to protect my assets and my future. Sarah tried to fight back at first, arguing that she was entitled to half of everything we had built together. But my lawyer was able to use the evidence of her affair to argue that she had breached our marriage contract and that I was entitled to a larger share of the assets. In the end, the divorce was messy and painful, but I emerged victorious. I kept the house, the car, and the majority of our savings. Sarah was left with a small settlement and a mountain of debt from her legal fees. She had to move back in with her parents and start her life over from scratch. As I watched Sarah's life unravel, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. She had hurt me deeply, and part of me felt like she deserved to suffer for what she had done. But at the same time, I also felt a sense of sadness and loss. We had once been so happy together, and it was hard to believe that it had all come crashing down so quickly. In the months that followed, I spent a lot of time reflecting on our marriage and what had gone wrong. I realized that there had been signs of trouble for a long time, but I had been too blind or too naive to see them. Sarah had always been a bit of a flirt, and she had a tendency to seek validation and attention from other men. I had always trusted her implicitly, but now I saw that trust had been misplaced. I also realized that I had been too passive in our relationship, too willing to let Sarah take the lead and make the decisions. I had been content to follow her lead and support her dreams, even when they came at the expense of my own. I vowed to never make that mistake again, to always stand up for myself and my own needs and desires. As I began to move on with my life, I found a new sense of purpose and direction. I threw myself into my work, taking on new projects and challenges that I had always been too afraid to tackle before. I started working out more, eating healthier, and taking better care of myself both physically and mentally. I even started dating again, cautiously at first but with a newfound sense of confidence and self-worth. Through it all, I learned some valuable lessons about love, trust, and betrayal. I learned that even the people we love the most are capable of hurting us deeply, and that we can't always take their love and loyalty for granted. I learned that trust is a fragile thing, easily broken but much harder to repair. And I learned that forgiveness is possible, but it has to be earned through actions, not just words. Looking back on the experience now, I still feel a sense of anger and betrayal at what Sarah did to me. But I also feel a sense of gratitude for the lessons I learned and the person I became as a result. I am stronger, wiser, and more self-assured than I ever was before, and I know that I can face whatever challenges life throws my way. To anyone going through a similar situation, my advice is this: trust your instincts, gather your evidence, and be prepared for a long and difficult road ahead. But know that you will come out the other side stronger and better than before. And remember that you are not alone, that there are people who will support you and stand by you no matter what. In the end, I emerged from the experience a changed man, but a better one. Update to the story. It's been a year since the fateful anniversary party where I exposed Sarah's cheating to everyone we knew. The divorce was finalized a few months ago, and I can honestly say I'm in a much better place now. Sarah really struggled after the truth came out. She lost her job pretty quickly once word got around about her affair with Mark. Her family basically disowned her, especially her dad. He was so pissed at her for betraying me and ruining our marriage. Her sister cut her off too, which I know was really hard on Sarah. They used to be super close. As for me, I focused on myself and my own healing. I got a big promotion at work, which kept me busy and gave me a sense of purpose. I also started hitting the gym more and got in the best shape of my life. It felt good to take care of myself and build my confidence back up. The divorce wasn't easy, but I had a great lawyer who made sure I got what I deserved. I kept the house and most of our savings, while Sarah got a small payout and a ton of debt. She had to move back in with her parents, which I know was a huge blow to her ego. I won't lie, it felt good to see her get what she deserved after what she did to me. But I also knew that holding on to anger and bitterness would only hold me back in the long run. So I worked on forgiveness, not for her sake, but for my own. I started dating again a few months ago, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm taking things slow and just enjoying getting to know new people. I'm not in any rush to jump into another serious relationship, but it's nice to feel that spark of connection again. One of the biggest lessons I learned from this whole experience is the importance of communication and honesty in a relationship. I realized that Sarah and I had a lot of issues we never really addressed, and that lack of communication ultimately led to the breakdown of our marriage. In my new relationships, I make a point to be open and honest about my feelings and needs. I don't shy away from difficult conversations, and I expect the same level of transparency from my partners. It's not always easy, but I know it's the only way to build a strong, healthy relationship. Looking back, I'm actually grateful for what happened with Sarah. It was a painful and traumatic experience, but it also taught me so much about myself and what I want out of life and love. I'm a stronger, more confident, and more self-aware person because of it. Wow, this story really hit home for me. I've been through a similar situation with an ex-girlfriend, and reading your experience brought back a lot of those painful memories. It's crazy how someone you love and trust can betray you like that, and it's even worse when they try to gaslight you and make you feel like you're the crazy one for suspecting something. I remember when I first found out my ex was cheating on me. It was like my whole world came crashing down. We had been together for 3 years, and I thought we had a solid relationship. I cut her out of my life and never looked back. Good riddance, honestly. And guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. If you enjoy my content, please like the video, comment with some clock emojis to show your support, and subscribe if you have not done so already. Thanks a lot, and I will see you again tomorrow.